Hello and welcome to the MedBees.life podcast. Have you ever held a jar of stingless bee honey? It's a product shrouded in mystique. Known in Thailand as chan-rong, this isn't your average thick golden honey. It's a fluid, tangy liquid treasured for generations in traditional medicine. But here's a secret the fraudsters don't want you to know. The very qualities that make this honey so unique also make it incredibly easy to fake. Forget the simple scams of mixing sugar syrup into regular honey. The world of counterfeit stingless bee honey is far more deceptive. Scammers use the honey's natural thinness and sour taste as a perfect cover. The common purity tests you see online, they're spectacularly wrong for stingless bee honey. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. A fraudster's dream: why stingless bee honey is a prime target. To understand the crime, you first have to understand the prize. The motivation for fraud is built on a simple formula: high price plus limited supply. In Thailand, authentic stingless bee honey can sell for up to 10 times the price of regular honey. This immense price gap creates a powerful financial incentive to create counterfeits. The supply is also naturally tiny. A typical stingless beehive produces only about 300 to 500 grams of honey per year. When demand outstrips this scarce supply, the market becomes a perfect breeding ground for fakes. But the real genius of the scam lies in exploiting the honey's unique nature. Its naturally high moisture content and thin, watery texture are its signature. For regular honey, adding water is a dead giveaway. But with stingless bee honey, this defect is the authentic standard, providing the perfect camouflage for dilution. The Deceiver's Playbook: common scams that fool the senses. The art of faking stingless bee honey has evolved. Here's a look inside the modern counterfeiter's playbook. The simple dilution. The most basic form of fraud is mixing the real product with a cheaper substance to increase volume. This can involve adding water, but more often, it means diluting the honey with cheaper conventional honey or commercial sugar syrups. Because authentic stingless bee honey is naturally watery, a diluted product doesn't immediately raise red flags. The flavor mimic. What truly sets stingless bee honey apart is its complex, sweet, and sour taste. Scammers have figured this out and simply add an acidic agent, like apple cider vinegar, to cheap, sweet, conventional honey to mimic the signature tang. The industrial cover-up. On a larger scale, honey laundering is a global problem where the true geographic origin of a honey is intentionally hidden. A key tool in this deception is ultrafiltration, which strips the honey of all microscopic particles, including pollen. Pollen is the DNA of honey. It's how scientists can trace a honey back to its floral and geographical source. By removing the pollen, launderers erase the evidence of the honey's origin, making it an untraceable generic sweetener. But I tested it at home. Why folk wisdom fails spectacularly. A quick search online reveals a dozen simple home tests to check for honey purity. Unfortunately, these tests are based on the properties of thick, conventional honey. When applied to naturally thin, high-moisture stingless bee honey, they don't just fail, they give you the wrong answer. The water test. The myth says pure honey will sink as a solid lump in water. Since authentic stingless bee honey is naturally thin, it will dissolve quite readily, leading you to falsely conclude that a genuine product is fake. The tissue and thumb test. The claim is that a drop of pure honey will hold its shape. Since real stingless bee honey has a naturally high moisture content, it will often be absorbed by a tissue, again leading to a false negative. The flame test. This test suggests that a matchstick dipped in pure honey will still light. The high moisture of real stingless bee honey will prevent the match from igniting. The freezing test. The myth says pure honey doesn't freeze. In reality, honey crystallizes, and the speed of crystallization depends on the honey's specific sugar ratio, not its purity. The molecular fingerprint. How science unmasks the fakes. If you can't trust your senses, how can anyone prove a honey is authentic? The answer lies in the lab. Isotope ratio mass spectrometry. This technique reads the atomic signature of the carbon in the honey. Most flowers are C3 plants, while common adulterants like corn and sugarcane are C4 plants. IRMS can spot the presence of C4 sugars. However, counterfeiters have adapted and now use syrups from C3 plants like rice and beets, which are invisible to this test. Nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. This is the gold standard of honey testing. NMR creates a complete molecular fingerprint of the entire product. It can identify and quantify hundreds of compounds simultaneously. For stingless bee honey, NMR can definitively confirm authenticity by detecting unique biomarkers that don't exist in conventional honey or fake syrups, such as the high concentration of the rare sugar trehalose and compounds from the propolis-lined honey pots. Your best defense, a practical guide to buying authentic honey. Your most reliable strategy is to shift your focus from testing the honey to verifying the source. Scrutinize the source. Seek out producers who are transparent. Buy directly from local beekeepers or well-established community enterprises. Ask questions about their bees, the floral source, and their harvesting methods. Beware of too good to be true prices. Trust your senses, but know their limits. Authentic stingless bee honey should have a complex, tangy flavor, a unique, slightly fermented aroma, and a thin consistency. Look for clues on the label. A reputable producer is more likely to provide specific information, like the harvest location, the floral source, or the specific species of stingless bee. The battle against fake stingless bee honey is a clear example of how knowledge is your best defense. By choosing to support transparent producers, you do more than just protect your wallet. You help preserve the integrity of a precious natural product and support the communities of dedicated beekeepers who bring it from the hive to your home. Thank you for tuning in. For more information, please visit our website and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.